So Double Dragon Revive, right? It's been out for what, 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at reviews because I realized this morning, I thought, I was playing Double Dragon Gaiden yesterday and I've been playing all these other Double Dragons, but I haven't returned to Double Dragon Revive since I played it initially. I spent a day and a half, I reckon, playing it, and I just haven't been back. Many people jumped on and watched my review of Double Dragon Revive 3 weeks ago, and I really appreciate that. It's actually helped my channel get more subscribers. I'm sitting at about 120, I think, now. It's unbelievable. It's only a young channel, so thank you so much. So Double Dragon Revive, right, these are some of the things that, well, they're not critics, but reviewers are saying. Someone has given it 5 stars here. They say that they think the complexity of the game will possibly be lost on the average player. I would not give this game 5 stars, if in fact it is 5 out of 5. I'd give it 5 out of 52 stars, no problem. But I wouldn't give it 5 out of 5. This person says the more you play it, the more you like it. You know, the boss fights, the level interactions, etc. I sort of agree with this person. I do think, like most games, the more you play it, you'll probably get different things out of it. A lot of people say this game looks really crappy, and I don't know. I mean, to me, because I don't play a lot of modern games that are not pixelated, it looks pretty good to me, but I think that's one of the things I don't like about it. I love Valphyrus, and I love the Evil Dead game and the Halloween game that came out from Retro Realms last year. I love these pixelated games that pay homage to the old stuff that I love. This doesn't feel like Double Dragon to me, so I'm not even inspired to play it again. I really should get in and play the game before I do this sort of follow-up review, but I just have no inclination. I can't be bothered. The game did nothing for me at all. And as I said in my review, there was all these lighting effects and all this stuff. And I know that Double Dragon Neon and I know that Double Dragon Gaiden, other games, they have effects when you punch or kick someone, but it's just a bit too much in this for me. Someone said here, this game needs a lot of work. They reckon the difficulty is completely unfair. And they talk about the idea of when you're hitting an enemy when they get up and it's sort of just, you punch through them. I think that's a really common flaw in many beat 'em up games. And in fact, playing Double Dragon Gaiden yesterday, I realized it does not have that. And I love that about Double Dragon Gaiden. You can stand over the enemy when they get up and hit them and it doesn't sort of pass through them. Where many games in this genre tend to have this sort of invisible hitbox thing that when they get up, they have a moment of not being able to be hit. This person says the combos need to be reworked, and they talk about Streets of Rage 4, which, yeah, it really is way better than Double Dragon Revive. Some people say that it takes them back to their youthful days. They feel like they're playing Double Dragon 1 in the arcade again with Revive, which is pure bullshit in my opinion. I don't feel that at all. But that's the thing, isn't it? Nostalgia really does drive our passion and love for some things. There are things that we like that are just dog shit. But we like them because something was happening in our life at the time and we embraced whatever the game or the song or the thing was. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best version of itself and that other versions of that, if it's a game, are not going to trump it. Someone says it's actually really amazing. People saying it's everything they expected in a Double Dragon game. People are saying they're hoping there's going to be updates. And someone said it's the best Double Dragon game of all time. Someone makes a point here, Michael Miller, this person's name is, they said, basically if it doesn't work 100% of the time, it's not a polished, finished product. He asks the question, how do game developers get away with doing this? Which they do a lot. and then have the nerve to increase the price of games for the consumer. It's a really good point. They go on to say that online access was the beginning of the end for console gaming. Sort of get that, because Michael here is saying that we don't buy complete products anymore. In the case of this game, clearly there are some things that can be done, so they might be able to make a patch that makes it better. I think we should be grateful that developers can come back in and fix little parts of the game, because if this was a Nintendo cartridge, years ago, it's done. You can't do anything about that. When they made Double Dragon 1 on the Commodore 64, they rushed that game so bad that it was a piece of crap. And so another company decided to make Double Dragon, and so there's actually two versions of Double Dragon. These days, the developers for Double Dragon 1 on Commodore 64 would be able to go in, using the logic of today, and fix up any of the bugs and make it better. Although remember that some things are inevitable, and there's no way in the world, no power that could fix the Commodore 64 version of Double Dragon. It's happened a couple of times now where games have been released when they said it was going to be released because the marketing says so, but the game wasn't finished. If you look at the Terminator 2 No Fate game, that's been pushed back, I think, 3 times now. And I really like that, because it means that, look, they're trying hard to get it right. I guess they're ironing things out. They did the same thing with Mechatheron, Valfaris 2. They pushed that back and back. It was a whole year until that came out on the Xbox. So yeah, it's been 3 weeks or so, and my opinion hasn't really changed. As I said before, I haven't been back to play the game. I'm not inspired to go back in and fire up Double Dragon Revive. Nothing personal, it's just not my thing. I like games that are good, and Double Dragon Revive is not good in my opinion. Now technically Double Dragon Revive is better than the Double Dragon handheld Tiger LCD game, definitely. And then I was thinking about that, and I thought, Double Dragon on the Game Boy. I was very lucky recently to buy a Game Boy while I was overseas, and I played Double Dragon on the reasonably long plane trip home, and I loved it. I mean, I played Double Dragon on the Game Boy years and years ago. In 1989 or something. Whenever Double Dragon came out on the Game Boy back in the 90s, I played it then. But playing it again recently was awesome. And I gotta say that even though the Game Boy is black and white or green or whatever that color is, it's just a better game than Double Dragon Revive. Like, I would rather play that right now than to fire up the Xbox or the Switch or what have you and play Double Dragon Revive. I wanted to say something here. As people, we're opinionated, and I think we forget that things are subjective, right? I think that kids would probably pick up Double Dragon Revive now and think it was unbelievable. It's flashy, it looks pretty good. A person that's not in their 40s like me that came across this game, there is a lot to love. So we need to remember about subjectivity. And you know, when people say there's 2 types of people in this life, there's actually about 4,573 types of people in this life. There are 2 types of people when it comes to this subject. You've got people who will go and watch and collect and love a movie like Transformers 45 or whatever they're up to. And then you have people that like, say, a Coen Brothers film, The Big Lebowski or something like that. You can like both of them. Sometimes you want to go to the cinema and watch Fast and Furious 500 and you want to get that kick. And sometimes watching an indie film that's quite slow and filmed beautifully and has incredible acting and stuff like that, sometimes you're not in the right headspace for it. Last time I checked, McDonald's sell more hamburgers than anyone else. But doesn't mean it's the best burger. I think the problem is we confuse popular with good. You're always gonna sell tickets to something like Transformers, and an amazing indie film that's being made that could be the greatest film of all time just gets like 3 people through the doors. And that brings me to the point. There is no best. So I think Double Dragon Revive I think we've reached a place in the series where that has become the McDonald's of Double Dragon. So Double Dragon Revive is definitely not going to appeal for the grizzly old buggers like me who collect and like the old versions of the game. We're really being pushed and propelled forward by nostalgia. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Double Dragon Revive is way too shiny for my liking. It's the Transformers 67 of the Double Dragon series.
Time to begin.